Have you ever wondered what New England looks like in the summertime, and specifically New England coastal gardens? Well, come along with me today as we tour several beautiful gardens loaded with inspiration. When walking into the tour, the first thing I noticed was the heavy use of rugosa rose or beach rose. This is a tough as nails rose that works really well in a coastal setting. And a common theme that I found throughout all of the gardens was the use of rhythm and repetition. Most of them used a couple of plants over and over in their landscape, which gave it a really cohesive and soothing appearance. You can see here the use of crane's bell or the geranium roseanne. That one is such a great plant. It's a constant bloomer. This border was loaded with nepeta or catmint used in large drifts, which is really impactful. Now, because this is a coastal setting, the air is cooler, these plants are just now in full bloom, where some of my nepeta is already ready to be cut back for its second flush. And I love the contrast that the red foliage on this smoke bush provides against the hosta and these beautiful blue hydrangeas that are so common in New England. Now, because we have naturally acidic soil in New England, that is why you will see the blue hydrangeas that are so customary of Cape Cod and Nantucket. So it is a really beautiful plant this time of year. New England properties also integrate evergreens heavily so that they provide structure and winter interest. Such beautiful stonework and cedar shingles used on these homes. And this particular house had a fenced garden between their home and their neighbor's home that was a cottage style garden and just gorgeous, with a gravel path down the center and plantings on each side. Now, these poppies, the Lawrence grape, are stunning. They really catch your attention, and they paired beautifully with the sea holly or eurangium that they had planted beside it. They repeated groupings of plants such as this eurangium and geranium. They had this gorgeous poppy, I believe it's called Danish flag. And they used gara, which was beautiful and works perfectly in a coastal setting because it likes sandy soils. They had these really pretty iron chairs, a group of 4 of them that just invited you to sit and enjoy this beautiful garden space that they had created. This appears to be a grouping of some fruit trees. And at the end of the path to the right, there was this large purple flowering plant that initially looked like a shrub, but upon a closer look, it was actually a really pretty variety of salvia. It also looks like catmint, but someone identified it as a type of meadow sage, which is a version of salvia. Really pretty. And these gorgeous foxgloves went so perfectly against the fence. They were either the apricot or the Dalmatian peach variety, but such a stunning plant. They also integrated some herbs in this garden, borage as well as dill, and this borage actually coordinated so perfectly with those foxgloves that they had them planted next to. And you can see, again, more groupings of poppies, and throughout this whole space, they kept your eye moving by repeating those groupings of plants. A really soothing little zen pond, and then a really striking border where they used some beech or ornamental grasses, some salvia, and this beautiful yarrow in large drifts. I believe this is the Tutti Frutti Apricot Delight. I've grown this variety before. It is stunning. And again, those beautiful blue hydrangeas. Now, this was a driveway garden, and they repeated the same 3 or 4 plants over and over again, which gave it a beautiful and cohesive look. So there were those macrophylla or mophead blue hydrangeas, the use of the caradonna salvia, which is a beautiful salvia. I'm actually thinking of adding some to my garden next season in place of some of the May night variety that I have. They also had some white drift roses as well as white penstemon. And in the back garden, they had these large drifts of, I believe these are drift roses in white, but they could also be a type of rugosa rose. And lavender lining these gravel paths, and as you brushed against it, you got that lovely fragrance of lavender along with the ocean scent. It was just lovely. And again here, They repeat these large drifts. You can see the roses on the left and some lady's mantle just spilling over this gravel path now that it's in bloom with these chartreuse kind of lime yellow blooms. In the left-hand corner here, they have a hardy hibiscus that is getting ready to bloom, usually in August for us here in the Northeast. And some more of this really pretty lavender. It's a very big variety, but it really does drape beautifully over the edge of this winding path. Again, you can see repetition of the same plants, and they used this spirea that was in full bloom beautifully. They keep repeating this spirea as we enter into this next garden room. Now this plant here that's in bloom in white caught my attention because I recently planted a pink version of Queen of the Prairie, also known as meadowsweet, but this one is white and it was really pretty as well. You can see the use of some lamb's ear as we turn the corner here. Lamb's ear provides such a beautiful silvery foliage with that soft velvety texture. They have some gay feather or blazing star on the left corner here that's getting ready to bloom. And again, you can see that repetition of those large drifts of the pink blooming spirea and those white drift roses. Just the perfect plants for this application, as well as those hydrangeas. The textures and the colors just work perfectly here. And there really is something to be said for that restraint of only using the same handful of plants over and over again. Plants need to be tough in a coastal setting. They need to be able to handle a well-draining sandy soil, lots of wind, sea spray, and they've selected some good plants here. You can see they repeated drifts of Russian sage, salvias, yarrow, all plants that can deal with those conditions, ornamental grasses, and even some beautiful coneflowers. This next home had a pool garden and also another garden room that was called the Oval Garden. So here in the pool garden, they had this garden shed, and on it was a red rose that was climbing called the 4th of July. It was a pretty rose in really healthy shape. I think roses really like this seaside setting. Of course, more hydrangeas, and then they have this border with a lot of native perennials. And as you go through the gate here, they have a hinoki cypress on the right, which I love hinokis. And then they have this lovely patio, as you can see in the back there, with a great view of the ocean, with a nice seating area, which imagine with the sea breeze, oh, that must be so nice to sit in this space and overlook the Oval Garden, which is right down these 2 steps, I believe it was. And you can see again, they have the use of these white drift roses, which are so soothing, that light color palette with the purple nepeta up ahead. And you can see they also have some lady's mantle in bloom, a smoke bush that's in bloom in the corner that draws your eye over to that corner with that red coloration. And on this side, they also have some more perennials. The lamb's ear in the front you can see is blooming alongside the lady's mantle. And in the corner, they had this tree that provided a little pocket garden of shade. Now, most of these coastal gardens are in full sun, but you do get these little pockets of shade. They had some Solomon seal in there, some hellebore, ferns, and then they also had a planter underneath with some chocolate cosmos, which looked really pretty. You can see again how large that nepeta is. Must be the walker's low. Very pretty. And the arbor. A garden arbor just makes a perfect entrance to a little garden room. And the rose campion looked stunning. They had both the bright pink and white. Looks so nice in this grouping. Here they have some plume poppies. Now, a friend recently shared this with me. They can get a little carried away, so I've been afraid to plant it. But the person who was taking care of this garden said that it's been well behaved in that area, so that's good to know. Some asters, which also do really well in a coastal setting, and they also had Amsonia planted in quite a few gardens. Now, driving down one of the driveways, they had the most stunning hedge of blue hydrangeas. Now, typically the macrophylla hydrangeas want shade, but these are in full sun, so as long as they get enough water, they seem to be really happy, and such a striking sight. This home's main perennial garden was enclosed by this charming white picket fence, and it had 4 quadrants, which looked very much like a potager or cottage-style garden, with these paths made of rustic flagstone and edged by cobblestone. You can see that they had lots of pollinator-friendly perennials, such as this light pink-colored rose campion and the brighter pink rose campion, some yarrow and some butterfly weed, as well as some delphiniums. They also had clumps of iris all around the 4 quadrants that were just on their way to being done blooming. And in the center of the garden, this beautiful sculpture of a mother with child. It was beautiful and the perfect centerpiece for this garden. They also had some penstemon that was still blooming happily, but even when it's done blooming, that dark foliage and those dark seed pods provide a lot of vertical interest. And a plant that we kept seeing over and over today, this sea holly or eurangium. I hope that this video provided you with some inspiration for some beautiful plant combinations. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will catch you in the next one.